He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
Welcome to The Alex Marlow Show. I'm Alex Marlow, and I'm glad you're here. Got a good show for you today. Going to be a lot of Charlie Kirk content, a lot of dunking on the media, but it's not really a dunk. It's kind of scary what's going on over there, plus some news updates. And then stick around for the back half of the show. I talked to a new friend of mine, Tanner Haas, who's got an amazing product that's an alternative to WhatsApp and Signal. He's actually coming on as a sponsor of the show, but I'm a big believer in this thing because he's a real expert in the information war that's going on online, and it is more relevant than ever given all the discussions that we've had in terms of where some of these domestic terrorists are getting radicalized. So I think he's part of the solution here, and he's also going to be a part of the show. So it's good to talk to him later. And there's just so much in the news that I wish I could dwell on. We're getting details about a potential TikTok deal with Oracle could become, with Larry Ellison's company, could become one of the major or the major shareholder as Trump is demanding it get sold to a American company. Oracle, one of the least bad of the Silicon Valley tech giants, but not perfect or pristine. We'll get to more of that down the road. We've also got the possibility of ByteDance retaining some ownership, which means the algorithm might not change, which means it continues to be a way for this Chinese social media company to manipulate our youth who are getting radicalized, or getting less happy, or getting less godly on that platform. So a very complicated, we'll have a lot of content on that at Breitbart and throughout the future shows. But I do recommend you always go over there if I feel like I can't get to everything on this broadcast. The Fed is finally cutting rates. We got breaking news that this is something that we've been anticipating this for a while. We had this circled because it's been a long time since the Fed approved any sort of a cut. It's going to be a quarter point or 25 basis point interest rate cut. And the Fed is forecasting 2 more cuts this year and 1 more in 2026, which is slightly more conservative than people would have anticipated. I will check in with John Carney either on this show or not on this show, and I'll report back to you soon. But that's what's happening. Roughly what was anticipated, but it is Trump's new appointee, Miran, who was very close with us at Breitbart, called for a half-point cut. He's the only dissent. So a brand new person, they're anticipating. So there's this dot plot that's used to track what people actually want for the rate to be the target rate. And Miran is by far the lowest. He wanted a half-point cut. And so that's great. So it's a great voice there that Trump has added. And more on that at Breitbart.com. And if you need more of that. But I got to spend most of the time today talking about Charlie because there's something so dark that's taking place in our media. And before I get into some of these clips, some of which you've seen, some of which you probably have not seen at this point about what's going on, about how this debate is being framed, I want to play for you Jeff Gray, who is the Utah, the prosecutor. I'll get his exact title while I'm playing the clip. But this is the guy who actually knows what's going on in Utah right now. Check this out.
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate.
So there you go. So he was becoming more gay, more left, and had distinctly different views from his family. So the people online who are trying to sow misinformation, you may have seen this, you may not be aware of this, but it's deeply disturbing what we're witnessing. We're witnessing a lot of people online act as though this guy was MAGA, this guy was a right-wing person, and they're just putting that lie out there, and they're doing it intentionally to try to create misinformation so that there's not a clear narrative that the left are the evil ones in this case, which is obviously true. venue was true before we knew about a motive at all. I will note that him saying that the venue was stupid, that was a very, very interesting comment. I'll just let that out there. I'll just let people draw any conclusion you want from that. But he was becoming more gay, I guess, or pro-gay, and had the trans boyfriend, and then said Charlie was filled with hate, and thus he needed to be cut down in his prime in front of his family. So completely gross, completely demonic, completely evil, and all of it's crystal clear. So this is the Utah County attorney. So he understands the information better than anyone. There's no reason to doubt his credibility, and yet you're seeing content like this online.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some.
Okay, so it is the MAGA gang acting like he wasn't one of them. So all the evidence online is that he was getting radicalized and thought Charlie was a hater. We know that he had a pro-furry meme on one of the bullets, or the bullet casing, whichever it was. We know that he wrote, "Hey, fascist catch." We know he had the Bella Chow 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 Antifa slogan on the bullets. We know that we had seen this exact same thing we were writing on the bullets with the trans shooter who gunned down the children as they prayed a couple of weeks ago. All of this data to suggest that this guy is on the hard left and on the radical left. And yet you get Jimmy Kimmel on ABC. So this is something that benefits from government airwaves, government sanctions. There is government control to a small degree. We have free speech in this country, but this is speech that is supported by the U.S. government. And Kimmel's out there just blatantly lying to people. So, and he's not alone. It's over and over again, you were seeing this is the exact type of content. Piers Morgan caught this guy. What is his name? I was not familiar with him, but he apparently has millions of people who follow him online. Bassem Youssef. Check out this exchange.
Some of these Bassem is never enough for you. You see, it doesn't matter how critical journalists are about Israel. It will never be enough for you because you want the right. You want the right to suggest that Charlie Kirk was the subject of a hit job by Israel. You want the world to think that. That's why you said what you said, and that's why when I asked you went, Netanyahu says it wasn't him.
By the way, I'm not even the only one. People are actually, here's the thing. If you continue lying to your people, right, I'll tell you what, let's call me a conspiracy theorist, right? Yeah. Call me someone who is illogical. Call me whatever you want. If your government continues to lie to you consistently, this is where conspiracy theorists thrive. If you're not transparent.
Why do you want to be one of them?
If you want to cover, no. I'm not saying I'm one
why?
of them.
Why float a mad conspiracy theory about Israel?
This guy had a conspiracy that Charlie got murdered by Israel, but he's really against conspiracies.
Conspiracy theory about Israel.
Because it's the internet and I'm a comedian.
Okay, but it's not that funny though, is it?
Actually, a lot of people thought it was very funny.
You have millions, I'm sure they did, but millions of people follow you, and you want them to think that Israel was behind the murder of Charlie Kirk. And you call me an ill-informed, irresponsible journalist.
Yeah, because I'm not a journalist. I'm a comedian. Remember, I'm a clown. I
don't think you're a clown.
That's what I do. Oh, I'm a clown. Actually, I'm a comedian. Comedians are actually overpaid.
But I think you're somebody who is so blindly hateful of all things Israel that you'll even promote a conspiracy.
So, and this is where, and Piers does a nice job getting these interviews and getting these people to expose themselves on his show. This is so dark. It's so dark in so many ways that people's Israel hatred, how they could get this wrapped up together. Charlie had a interesting perspective on Israel that's very hard to categorize. But overall, he's a very pro-Israel guy and was doing a great job, I would say, brokering the anti and pro-Israel factions of the conservative movement to come together from time to time. And it's definitely something that's going to be explored a lot, given the current events, the cycle of the news, and something that I'll take on with you on the show at a different time. But overall, the idea that Israel benefits from Charlie being assassinated is absurd to begin with. And that this is put out there, and then he basically owns up to saying, yeah, it's fake because I'm a comedian. This is exactly what John Nolte wrote about with Jon Stewart back in the day where The Daily Show was at its peak. These comedians, he would say, Nolte's description is they would have the clown nose on, and then they would say whatever they want, and then they take the clown nose off, and then they would moralize, they would preach, they would do politics. And then if you ever called them out for something, they would say, oh, well, my clown nose was on. But was it on? I don't know if it was on. Maybe you're just trying to serve a political purpose, and that's what you're doing. And you're protecting yourself with this veneer of, oh, but I'm a comedian, so I should be able to get away with more. It gets worse somehow. This was on CNN. I think this was on the Abby Phillips Thunderdome that our friend Scott Jennings is on. This is Montel Williams. Check this one.
But hear it? I think he also, I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this was motivated emotionally.
And so this is where we pivot to something super dark and disturbing. So it wasn't political. So, hey, fascist catch, all the reports that he was getting increasingly left-wing, his parents saying he was increasingly left-wing, him saying Charlie was filled with hate. But this is all emotional.
I think this was a emotionally stunted person who literally, when I say it this way, just hear me, tried to defend his significant other, not trying to defend some ideology.
Although I do think there's clearly an ideological difference. That's why I played about what they said about the family. I mean, the ideological difference that he was reacting to wasn't just Charlie Kirk. It was also maybe his dad. I mean, his father was, according to him, MAGA. So that conflict was there, clearly.
But this is a young man who's dating a person in transition. And I'm a conservative father, and
Yeah, so his dad actually might be to blame a little bit because the dad didn't like that he was maybe dating a trans person. So, because every father's dream is for their 22-year-old son to date a man who thinks he's going to be a woman, and it happens to be a furry. So it's every man's dream. And so, but because of that's why you can shoot Charlie Kirk or something. So this brings me to the one that is the most wild. And there's two clips. I think we only pulled one, which is fine. But this is ABC's Matt Gutman. This is the clip that's ricocheted across the internet and has even elicited some level of an apology, which I'll mention shortly. But check out this one.
It's heartbreaking on so many levels, Kira. Obviously, Charlie Kirk was murdered brutally in front of a crowd of thousands of people who watched him being shot through the neck and then essentially bleed out in front of him. And I think one of the things that the attorney here made a very fine point about is that a lot of these charges, 7 charges, were aggravated because children were present. Children witnessed this. Children were put in harm's way. And that was something that obviously is aggravating here, and that's one of the reasons that the suspect, in addition to the alleged murder being political in nature, is facing the death penalty. They're going for the death penalty. And on the other hand, there is this duality of a portrait of a very human person, a very human experience from this entire family. As you mentioned it, the mother who essentially discovered that it was her son who had done this, the kid who had got a 34 out of 36 on the ACTs, who had a 4.0, who got a full ride to college here, that kid was the one who allegedly perpetrated. She saw those pictures and identified him essentially. And then those text messages, and I don't think I've ever experienced a press conference in which we've read text messages that are so fulsome, so robust, so apparently, allegedly self-incriminating, and yet on the other hand, so touching, right, with the suspect.
So you got that. So touching text messages between the assassin and his trans boyfriend.
Reaching out to his roommate, who is allegedly his boyfriend, who we understand, identified as male at birth, now identifies as female. And the terminology he used, he was trying to protect him. He kept calling him my love. My reason for doing this is to protect you, but also asking him to delete the messages and not speak to law enforcement. So there's this heartbreaking duality that we're seeing very tragically playing out.
It's one of the all-time media clips. Nice job by Newsbusters, as our friend Curtis Houck, who I think caught that first. So he did it out of love. This was a romantic assassination. That's what this was. I had a tweet that's done well that I think sums this up, and this is very important, that what's been established here, what's being established, they're trying to push up on us, is that Christian and conservative speech is violence. Charlie Kirk was the threat because he was sitting there on campus, and he was willing to call out transgender violence, which is taking place across the country, and he's willing to suggest that biologically there are only 2 sexes, things like that. That he doesn't think it's fair for men to beat women at sports and it's cheating. Basic stuff that I think the vast majority of us agree with, whether or not we're willing to say it. And what's happened is that we're being told that left-wing violence is actually protected speech, is protected expression. And in this case, with Matt Gutman, he believes it's romantic. He believes it's a love story. It's an assassination out of love. So it might have even been kind of a good thing in a way, right? I mean, that's the implication. It's just so romantic. Tragic, sure, but in like a Shakespearean sort of way, not in a pure demonic evil sort of way. So this is the worldview on ABC and NBC and on CNN and on the Blue Sky platform, and people are in denial of this. But it is one of the most disturbing things that I've seen this pattern play out. In Gutman, another clip, another one where he said basically the same thing. He supposedly had some sort of an apology for this, but it's really what dwells in your heart. Matt Gutman is a gnat. Like I didn't know who he was, and I follow the media for a living. So he's not a significant person, but it is representative of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of messages that we've seen online of people celebrating Charlie's death. People who have taken pleasure in it. This is one kid who was a student in Texas somewhere. There is some sort of memorial for Charlie. If you don't see this, you're not going to get the visuals. You got to get the visuals here. So I recommend you subscribe, particularly on YouTube. Go to Alex Marlow Show YouTube. Subscribe there. Check this out. So this is a student who is at Texas State University. He should have been at Charlie Memorial, and he's mimicking a very angry look, by the way, not funny. It's not a joke. He's making a very angry look where he's mocking Charlie getting shot in the neck. And he continues and keeps going for it. Now he's walking on top of a statue behind some people who are waving American flags. And now he's slapping his neck like he just got shot with a bullet. And now he goes down.
Oh, buddy. Fuck that nigga. You're gonna get expelled, dude.
And then he says, F that N-word. I'm guessing that's about Charlie. So, okay. So it's hard to talk about this in a calm way, but I want to try to maintain credibility, composure with you guys. But this is truly dark, satanic. I'm saying that this is satanic, and it is satanic. Someone gets gunned down as they peacefully discuss their ideas in America. And the assassination culture, it's growing. I've shown you those horrific polls. And even what if it's, 10, 12, 13% of people who think it's justifiable, the political violence in this country. It makes it very dangerous to be a public person with that level of people who are willing to do this. So, and to suggest as though maybe it was a beautiful thing, it was just an act of love, it was an act of protection. So we are fighting on so many different fronts here. First of all, we've got to grow Turning Point. We've got to honor Charlie. We get to take up the mantle, not just for for conservative values, but Christian values, family values, stuff that Charlie championed and loved. We got to do that. We got to make sure that his murderer is brought to justice and gets the maximum possible penalty for it. But we also have to fight these media battles where they're saying, well, maybe it was Israel. Maybe it was MAGA. Maybe he deserved it because he said some mean stuff. And maybe the killer wasn't really so bad. He was just doing it out of love. All of which is an invitation for them to keep going and for them to do it again. And for the death cult to continue. And every one of these stores, I'll tell you, I'm thinking about them. I'm going through right now. It's the I Got to Buy Do Big speech on a couple days from now. And it's a deep consideration whether or not I feel like it's going to be safe. Knowing that every time you go out there now, if you have the viewpoint that I have on people like, the trans individuals and the fascists, then you're putting a mark on your back. It's so anti-American, and it just does not work as a society. We've had this civil society for decades that has endured. It's triumphed. We've had problems. But overall, we've been on a good run in this country. And we're just trying to throw it all away right now. People cannot be decent. There is just simply no decorum that's left. Randy Weingarten, who is the president of one of the most powerful teachers unions, is out with a piece in Rolling Stone just yesterday. Why fascists hate critical thinking? In Rolling Stone, pictures of Donald Trump. So he's a fascist still. I'm going to have to do a whole show on fascism and how it's just not what Trump stands for in the slightest. But to continue to use this rhetoric after a guy shoots one of Trump's main allies with a bullet that says, hey, fascist, catch, or one of the bullets that he could have shot him with, conceivably. I think it was the furry bullet that hit him, which is really interesting. So that was the higher priority. Al Gore's out there basically calling Trump a jihadi. I'd say Al Gore's irrelevant, but it's a collectively, this is all very, very disturbing. And we got that, by the way, that language, which is right as there's this discussion in Dearborn, Michigan, that was going on, where the mayor there, who's a Muslim, telling Christians he's not welcome in the country because the Christian objected politely at a council meeting to honoring a pro-terror Arab leader with a street. So a Dearborn resident politely said that a city council meeting that you shouldn't, a guy named Ted Barham, he was scolded by Mayor Abdullah Hammoud on record in Dearborn. Because Barham, who's a Christian, said he wasn't welcome because they didn't want new street signs honoring Arab American news publisher Osama Siblani, who was a pro-terror Arab leader. And even the good guys are not that good. There was one that I brought up briefly that Josh Shapiro, who is the governor of Pennsylvania, maybe the most moderate of the prominent Democrats in America, he was chiding Trump over his response to the Kirk assassination. And I kind of blew through it because it's so mild, but I'm just saying that they don't know how to take a news cycle off and just say, political violence, we disavow it in this country. We have free speech in this country. Charlie was practicing politics in a way that venerated free speech. It stood for what America is all about. And if you want to beat Charlie, you do it with your words and with your vote. You don't do it with a gun. And I'm going to be taking a break until this news cycle winds down. That's all I got to say. They never do that. I think it was our friend Scott Jennings who actually made a good point on this on CNN. We got this clip for you. Check this out.
He's got a point.
Well, I think his point would be strengthened if he were honest today about who burned his house down. You know, it was a Free Palestine leftist who came and burned down the governor's mansion. He left that out. He left that out of his tweet today, and he's talking about cherry-picking political violence, and we're talking about where there might be political violence. The violence against the governor of Pennsylvania and his family came from the left. And so I think, look, I think there's a rush by Democrats who want to be president in 2028 to try to turn, somehow Donald Trump's friend gets shot, and now everybody wants to blame Donald Trump for it. I guess that's what you have to do to get elected president as a Democrat.
We are not doing that sitting here, okay? And Kate.
Yeah, as well said as always, and the clip is still interesting, but that's the main point. And that's the thing, that Shapiro is acting like he's an authority because he's been a victim of political violence, but he was also a victim of political violence from the left. And I think that's the point that Jennings made, that it was very good. I should have made that point when I had the chance, when I brought up earlier in the week. But hey, look, you know what? Sometimes you got to play a team game. So that was a great point there. So yeah, so Gutman says he didn't mean to romanticize Tyler Robinson's text to his trans lover. By the way, these texts, again, worthy of more time I'm going to spend on the show. But my initial reaction to reading some of these texts, where they seem cooked. They seem like the sort of thing where you would come up with some sort of a paper trail to create some sort of a narrative and maybe weren't genuine. That's my gut. My gut is they're not genuine. So they were either part of a broader conspiracy or they were at least somewhat of an effort to try to protect the trans boyfriend and to make this seem more innocent than it was. So put a pin in that because we're going to be coming back to that. And the left, of course, never misses a chance to divide. Barack Obama implied Trump was to blame again, saying extreme views were not in my White House. So Obama never misses an opportunity to divide. I've been saying this I did one of my most commonly played YouTube videos of an interview I did with PBS, where I get into this right away. It's like an hour-long interview. I get in right away. Obama's a deeply divisive president. And my favorite example to cite was Trayvon Martin, which I've cited on this show this week, where Obama fanned the flames, acting as though that was a racial hate crime, when it was really just a struggle between a brown guy and a black guy that ended up with a fight where one of them had a gun and the black kid ended up getting shot and died. So it was not a racial hate crime. It was deeply unfortunate. It was deeply sad but there was no white guy targeting a black guy, which is how it was portrayed in the media. And Obama, instead of saying, calm down, everything's going to be okay, this was tragic, but fortunately, it's not part of a broader pattern of white on black violence. So, but instead he said, if I had a son, he would have looked like Trayvon, as divisive as it gets, saying, amp up the outrage. We need that energy politically. So, and that's what he's doing here, acting like it's Trump's fault. And he did have extreme views in his White House. He never missed an opportunity to take advantage of a moment where he could sow racial division. And of course, he's a kitty cat compared to who's leading the Democrat Party now. Check out Jasmine Crockett.
But when we look at it, please tell me who is fostering this gun culture, right? I mean, the reality is that the average person on the left probably couldn't make a shot from 200 yards because they haven't been playing with assault rifles since they were a little kid. Like that.
There's so much inaccurate in here that even for Jasmine, you can't believe that she was brought to CNN. Of course, Casey Hunt just sits there like an idiot. One of the most loathsome of the CNN anchors is Casey Hunt. It's not an assault rifle. I went through this video with A.W.R. Hawkins. We had a great episode of Breitbart Confidential, my premium show over there for our members. And he explained to me the history of the weapon. The weapon's 100 years old. There's no way in a country with legal hunting and with a Second Amendment, you're going to get this particular gun banned. It's not an assault rifle. And if you want to not have this gun around, then what you need to do is you need to cancel the Second Amendment. And then you need to have all the federal government by force with a gun show up at everyone's houses and find all the guns in their houses and take them. Other than that, this type of gun is going to be there. There's just no realistic way to be. I'm just saying, I'm not speaking passionately about, I love this gun or something. It's just realistically, you're not going to be able to ban this one. It's not an assault rifle. Let's start that one from the top just because it's still wild.
When we look at it, please tell me who is fostering this gun culture, right? I mean, the reality is that the average person on the left probably couldn't make a shot from 200 yards because they haven't been playing with assault rifles since they were a little kid. Like that is just a reality of how people on the left typically work. But
that's not true. People on the left keep shooting and killing us. It's just not true. We got lucky that the leftist sniper just missed Trump, I guess. That was very fortunate, but I think God made him miss that shot on a personal level. And in this case, it was not a hard shot to anyone. I've talked to a lot of gun hobbyists since then, and none of them think it was a hard shot. So, and he probably missed his target. I mean, no one aims for the neck. So he probably missed. So this idea that a leftist can't fire a gun accurately is just who talks like this in public. There's no one in her corner who's saying, Jasmine, you really sound stupid when you do this. Bolt action rifles are not assault weapons.
Work. And if we believe that political violence is a problem in this country, if we believe that our children on campuses, just because they want to go out and have a day of free speech on campus, may be subjected to this kind of violence, then maybe we need to start talking about legislation that will keep these types of weapons out of certain people's hands. Now, whether or not this gentleman would have qualified under...
Whether or not this gentleman murdered my friend in front of his family. She calls him a gentleman. I know she's just an idiot. I know it's just the same thing. I could have played this clip today of Jerry Nadler, who took a break from his Frankfurter eating in front of the fridge to call my friend Charlie Kirk, Charlie King. I could have played that clip. You guys have probably seen it at this point. But it's just... I don't relish just pointing out these people are dumb. It's just not super interesting to me. Maybe it's interesting to you, but I feel like this is just being dumb, but it's also, how is, or is the devil working on her? He's calling him a gentleman. He publicly executes my friend for the crime of speech that he didn't like, that offended his trans boyfriend. Yeah, he's a gentleman. I mean, no, he's like Frank Sinatra. He's like he's like King Charles. That's who he is. All right.
Under any type of laws that many of the Democrats have proposed, I don't know. But the reality is that they typically want to say is somebody with a mental health problem. Well, maybe red flag laws would be helpful in those circumstances. The reality is that...
But there's no way to red flag this guy unless we were investing in these Discord chats, which we weren't doing. And we probably should start thinking about doing that in some ways. And we got to keep an eye on these things, right? I mean, I'm saying, what is the use of federal government if we're not aware that people getting radicalized in these chat rooms? So, I mean, I like to ask Cash about that if I can talk to him at some point, which I probably will soon. So, what the plan is there's got to be a plan. But there's no way to red flag this guy. You could have, I mean, maybe, I just don't know if you have a trans boyfriend is going to be enough to red flag you. It's just not. Even if you're pro red flag law. So she has no idea what to do. It just, then you don't have to talk. That's the point. And that's why I'm alarmed and why I think this is really grave and dark, is because you don't have to say anything that's not productive. Sowing division, sowing chaos. This is the moment where we all should be unified against political violence and pro-free speech and have a big reset. It's really Trump's fault. It's really Trump's rhetoric. He is a fascist. This was a love story. All of that tries to, maybe it was Israel who did it. Maybe it was MAGA that did it. All of that helps us. It makes us have chaos when we want clarity here. And it's not a hard one. I said this the minute it happened. It all made sense. They've been targeting us. They've been hunting us. Charlie was in a vulnerable place. He was doing something that really deeply offended people, and in a climate where we've been told over and over again politically that conservative speech is violence and left-wing violence is protected speech, then this was inevitable. And instead of trying to bring us back from that and back to the era of where we could debate, how much more interesting would it be if I could get lefties on the show and they would have compelling arguments and we'd go back and forth? There's just not that many of them. There's only a few who will debate at all, and a lot of them just end up yelling anyway and acting obnoxious. And some of them are outright calling for more violence online, and they're using it to boost their profile. Whether or not it's genuine or whether or not it's performance art, like we've moved so far past the authentic era, and we are now in the freak show era, and we're trying to get attention by being the freakiest we can be. That's why Jasmine gets attention. I'm happy to give it to her. It's good show content, and it clarifies where the left is at. But very scary, and they're just pandering these small communities, a small online furry community that this guy was a part of, and he wanted to impress them, and I think that's what it was. And Satan saw a very malleable vessel. All right, let's bring in my friend Tanner Haas. We're going to talk about one way to start solving problems like this, which is to make sure that we've got the absolute best technology available to us that's not owned by the bad guys, and make sure that we have privacy when we need it and protected speech in an era where free speech is there'll be a lot of questions about free speech after this. It's a moving target, figuratively speaking. All right, Tanner Haas now. Okay, this is big news on the show. Lately, I've made friends with a young entrepreneur named Tanner Haas, who's got a product called Freedom Chat, which is an alternative to WhatsApp and Signal and these big tech messaging apps that are scouring our data. I'm funding left-wing people I don't like. And he's someone who pays really close attention to this space, the conservative media space, and he's got an alternative. But he's also someone who's keeping an eye on some industries that are dominated by the left and does not have a big conservative presence there. And so he's got an app called Freedom Chat. We're going to talk about that, but I think I want to talk to him also about just the state of this industry and the fact that a lot of our messaging, a lot of our speech is being either monitored or controlled by the bad guys. And this is a big thing for me. And that's why I've moved a lot of my chats onto Freedom Chat in recent weeks. When my little team for the show, when we coordinate on Freedom Chat now. And I really do think this is the future. And I'm happy to have Tanner on, not just on the program today, but he's also coming on as a sponsor for the show. So Tanner, it's great to introduce you to the audience and talk about Freedom Chat. But I do want to start with some of the newsier things here, the big picture, before we talk about the app and what it does. You heard me set it up. Every major app that we're using to communicate is controlled by people who do not share our values. And a lot of them are using that information, that data, either to sell us to people or maybe worse, to monitor us in ways that are just not, I'm not comfortable with it on a personal level, but speak 30,000 foot on this.
I mean, you hit it right on the head. So there is a significant issue with privacy, free speech, data security. And if you look at the companies that claim to protect our privacy, they're all owned, operated by the same people that do not like us, do not share our values, whether that's Discord, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram. None of them truly align with our perspectives. And if you look at like Signal and WhatsApp, co-founded by the same individual, the CEO of Signal or the chairwoman of Signal is the CEO of NPR. NPR, the same NPR that Trump's been taking funds away from. So it's kind of like they're all one of the same. There's not a whole lot of insight into this space. Like people aren't aware of all the hidden things behind the scenes. So just here to shed some light on that, talk about freedom chat, but you hit it right on the head.
Yeah, so I want to talk about, let's take on WhatsApp and Signal specifically. I'm guessing that you consider those your main competition, but there's a lot of other things. I want to touch on Discord and Reddit because they've been in the news. I want to talk about TikTok because that's in the news also, just in terms of where freedom chat could go. But you're starting out initially. What would you consider yourself in? I don't want to say it's not beta phase, alpha phase. What are we calling it? Where are we at?
Alpha phase. As cheesy as that sounds.
Yeah,
for people
it's cool. It's not cheesy. It sounds cool. So you're in the alpha phase of the app, and so I think right now you're taking on WhatsApp and Signal. So let's take those one at a time. So WhatsApp messaging app, I'm on it, but this is Meta, right? Like it's owned by Mark Zuckerberg, like the guy who tried to buy the 2020 election for Joe Biden. Like he's making money off of my chats there?
Yes. WhatsApp is owned and operated by Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. And WhatsApp, I mean, if you've looked at their website throughout the years, they have updated the website to coincide with what consumers care about. They've done an excellent job with that. So if you see them, they keep progressing on the message privately. Oh, speak freely, message privately. And if you go on their website, it is everywhere. And I don't know if there's any company other than Facebook itself, even though they're owned by the same parent company, but WhatsApp has paid so much in fines for hacks. I mean, data breaches. It's absolutely incredible. And you look at WhatsApp, they say they have end-to-end encryption. No one can see what you say. Well, I mean, that's been debunked time and time again. And for example, there's a feature in WhatsApp where you can report a user and then Meta can see the 5 latest messages in that chat. And if you really think they can only see the 5 latest messages, I mean, come on. So I don't think WhatsApp's worth anything. It's super user-friendly. They've made it super clean. Right. Yeah, of course they have. But doesn't mean it's private. You should not have any private conversations on that unless you want them to be made public. So there's really three pillars of privacy. And the first one is end-to-end encryption. Let's say WhatsApp lacks that just completely transparently.
Yeah.
Then they store every single message that you have on a server. The server is everything is shared with the parent company. So every image, video, message you've ever sent on WhatsApp is stored on a server. And then do they have commercial use of user data? I don't think there's any company on the planet that does a better job of commercializing user data than Meta. So every piece of metadata.
That is the business. I mean, that's what Zuckerberg testified to that alarmed all of us. I don't know, it was 6 or 8 years ago, whatever it was, when he was saying that's exactly what they do is they get the data and they sell ads based on the data. Like that's the business.
But it's more invasive. I think people data has become this ambiguous term, but if you break it down on a personal level, what is your data? Well, it means who you're talking to, when you're talking to them, your financial state, your political affiliation, your interest, dislikes, like all of that. They can get that from who you're messaging. So if I messaged you on WhatsApp, Alex, they're going to say, okay, where's Tanner? Yeah. Where's Alex? Where were they located? What have they been doing? Like it is so much more to that. And it's like, okay, that's deeply, deeply concerning. So for WhatsApp to portray themselves as a private messenger is just utterly ridiculous, to put it quite frankly.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Signal, and then we're going to go big picture again. But let's talk about Signal, because I've found myself using Signal more because I just find Zuckerberg to be repulsive. Even though Zuckerberg 2.0 is certainly better than the old Zuckerberg, but still, he just bothers me. And I don't know, maybe we'll be best friends one day. But as of now,
I don't know about that.
Yeah. It seems unlikely. So I find myself on Signal more, but then the more you dig into Signal, the more you realize you're just funding the same left-wing superstructure that I complain about on the show every day. So break down Signal for me.
So Signal's a little more difficult to attack because they've done a fantastic job in that sense. They've portrayed themselves as, hey, we're nonprofit, which I will touch on why I abhor that in every sense of the word. So the first thing is Signal is co-founded by the same individual, Brian Acton, that co-founded Signal, or WhatsApp rather.
Yeah.
So WhatsApp, Signal share the same co-founder. The other thing with Signal that I utterly despise is that they claim they're a nonprofit. And I have no problem with nonprofits. If you're a church, if you are actually benefiting people, you're taking below market salaries. But if you look at Signal, they say they're a nonprofit, but they received $100 million interest-free loan from Brian Acton. They pay above market rates for their salary. They just recruited somebody from Google that gets paid over $800,000 a year in cash-based compensation. So I don't say you're a nonprofit. I hate that because that's what the healthcare system does, and they bankrupt the majority of Americans. It's like, just be honest. Say you sell user data, you pay for privacy, whatever. But do not say we're a nonprofit. We do this out of the goodness of our heart. Like, come on, that's nonsense. So that's my first big issue with them. The other is their co-founder. The third is I have an inherent lack of distrust of them. You know, the chairwoman of Signal, so chairman of the board, is the CEO of NPR. There is a significant conflict of interest there. She has literally said, her words, not mine, she views the First Amendment as a challenge. She wanted to shut down Donald Trump on all social media platforms. She called conservatives something to be dealt with. So I'm like, okay, you can't be that partisan. You can't have those outrageous views and run a so-called private messaging app. And I just find it so coincidental, so interesting that every time a big name conservative uses Signal, something happens. And from a privacy perspective, they should be private. I mean, you look at their docs, they should be private. But it's also like, who do you trust? I do not trust them. To me, they're worth nothing. I do not trust them. I don't trust WhatsApp. And the other thing with Signal, which the Washington Examiner, the New York Post has hit this right on the head, is they support linked devices. Linked devices means that you can log in with your phone number, Alex, on 5 different devices. It doesn't matter where you are. And that has happened to users on Signals. They'll log in and they'll try to log in Russia, in China, and these have been successful Chinese and Russian phishing attempts. So that is an issue. And the only reason they jumped on that boat is because they want to portray themselves, this is what Telegram, this is what WhatsApp does. It's user-friendly. Let's link devices. Let's store everything in the cloud so you can log in on an unlimited number of devices. Sounds great in theory, but in practice, it's not. And Freedom Chat, we do not support linked devices. So if you go log in on your phone number on another device, you will either A, have to enter your PIN, B, if you're able to get in, none of your messages will transfer over. It will alert all your other contacts that this user has they changed their encryption ID. So it really is like we've addressed where these other messaging apps have failed, and we've built Freedom Chat up specifically to address those shortcomings.
Okay, so this is important here. So first of all, just by nature of the fact that you're a conservative person and you're sponsoring a show like mine and you're partners with Salem, you're supportive of my work at Breitbart, that's already good enough for me to give it a shot over a Signal or a WhatsApp. But you're also trying to solve problems that they have. You're putting out what you believe is a superior product, and so. Explain what problems that they pose that you've solved with Freedom Chat.
So the first thing that I hit on is the encryption. Do you have true end-to-end encryption, which means no one under any circumstances can decrypt a message if it's not intended for them? So I message you on Freedom Chat, Alex. No one in any circumstance can see that message except you. I mean, you saw when you created your Freedom Chat account, your encryption keys were generated right then and there. My phone knows your public encryption key, meaning like how does it verify that this is Alex? And then the private encryption key is open for each individual chat. So it decrypts and no one else has that unique private encryption key. So that's the first thing, just real end-to-end encryption. Telegram does not have end-to-end encryption by default. Discord does not, which means they themselves, as the service operator, can see every single message. WhatsApp, well, no matter what they claim, I mean, it's WhatsApp. Just hold your breath. Signal, it's the same thing. I just do not trust them. And then the other question, Do you store your messages on a server? Which for us, we do not. As soon as the message is successfully delivered, it's removed from our servers, which is great from a security perspective, but also from a cost perspective. We're able to lower our costs. Do you have commercial use of user data? Is the last one, and that's probably the biggest one. You want a company that's designed to protect your privacy, and that's what Freedom Chat is. But we've also taken it a step farther. We prevent screenshots, screen recordings. You can edit, unsend, self-destruct any message, image, or video. We do not support linked devices, like I said. So really, Freedom Chat is built from the ground up to minimize the data that we collect. We have no commercial user data, and we guarantee that no one other than the intended recipient can see any of your messages, images, or videos. And I think that's how it's supposed to be.
Everyone has got to take out their phone right now. You got to download Freedom Chat right now. And then I want everyone to try to take a screenshot of something. Get a friend to do it. You could join the Alex Marlow channel, the Alex Marlow Show channel. I got my own channel. It's right there on the front page. You could do it. It is really awesome technology because you try to screen cap. Why? I don't even know how you built it. You don't have to give away trade secrets, but that's very cool.
You get a blank white screen. If someone tries, so go subscribe to Alex Marlow's channel. He posts content on there. Try to screenshot his channel and you'll get a blank white screen. We put now it's in the hands of Alex. If he wants to edit, unsend a post, he can. If he doesn't want you to screenshot, you can't. So try to take a screenshot, message somebody on there, and it feels good to have your privacy back. I mean, it's nice to know that what you send your wife, your business associate, your son, daughter, nobody else can see it. And that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's just great because I'm a private person, but I'm a public person. And this is something that I think just philosophically, one thing that's really bothering me about the way we've moved the country over this century is that we're trying to discourage people who are personally private from having public jobs because it's so invasive. You have to do this public colonoscopy every time that you get a promotion and get in the news for 5 minutes. And I do think that is going to discourage people who, don't want all their tax returns and medical histories to be released to the public every time that they have a news article written about them. And so I do think that you're thinking of those types of people. So I don't know, it just fits me personally with just the way I like to message because I'm slightly to highly paranoid of leaving paper trails places. Mm-hmm. And not because I have anything bad to say. It's only because it's a headache. It's a headache when people are like, well, I got the screenshot of you saying something stupid in a private chat. Like you're looking out for those people. And I think that's really important. But I have to ask though about the business model because all this data that's harvested in these other apps, they sell it to make billions. What's the business model for you?
So we have a few different business models. The first one is a pay for privacy, where users, after you've sent a specific number of messages, a pop-up will appear and tell you it's time to upgrade your account to Freedom Chat Premium. It's $5.99 a month or $52.99 a year. And we're able to offer that low of a cost because we don't store messages on our server. So we're able to keep our costs extremely low. And if you become a Freedom Chat Premium member, you can still screenshot, unsend messages, send 4K images and videos. And if you don't become a Freedom Chat Premium user, everything is always end-to-end encrypted. We will never have commercial use of your data, but you will lose access to some exclusive features. I mean, this is not a charity. Like we have to make money, but we will never, ever have commercial use of user data. And you will always have end-to-end encryption and never store your messages on a server. But what we're building, I see, is not just private messaging, but like a cybersecurity type play is we launched Freedom Chat for Business, which allows dating apps, healthcare companies, insurance companies to create their own private chat using our unique technology, our unique features, but tailored to their branding, image, and likeness. So I see that as a huge play. Nice. And we've already signed a few big deals there. And it's not just now, it's only going to continue to get worse. People's privacy should be treated as a significant issue. I mean, think of every health record, every conversation, the increase in spam. I mean, it is a big issue, and we're at the forefront. We're addressing that not just for individuals, but for businesses as well.
So I mentioned something, I alluded to something, and I'll talk about this later on also with the audience, but I'm posting original content on Freedom Chat. There's an Alex Marlow Show channel. So you can use it for private messaging, but there's also these channels that are these sort of elevated group chat type situations. And that's pretty cool. So if you want more from me, I'll be over there posting stuff for this audience. So everyone should check that out. And I'll talk more about what I'm posting over there down the road. But Tanner, let's talk a little bit about where we think communications is going in this country, because in the news, we've seen all of these messages on Discord being discussed and Discord being dishonest about the nature of some of these messages. And I think the expectation is that the federal government's going to be policing a lot of these chats, which maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't at this point, because there's a lot of radicalization going online. The online communication space is always a moving target. Talk to us about where you see it now and where you think it's going to go from here.
So I think Discord is disgusting. So my first thing is I don't think we should be able to police hate speech. I don't think that's a term. I think if you're getting offended, that's your problem, not theirs. I don't think you should be able to make threats, which Discord, and this is why I have such a big problem with Discord. Discord claims in their privacy policy. So anybody who does not believe me, go look at Discord, read their privacy policy. They have no end-to-end encryption. So what that means is they themselves, the service operator, can see every single message on the platform, every single message, every image, video, everything. So Discord, not only was this assassin on Discord, but the Butler would-be assassin was also using Discord. There have been dozens of child pornography cases on Discord. And I'm thinking, it's utterly disgusting. How are you missing this? Do you see it and not care? And then I take it back to, well, who is this company? If you go look at Discord's careers page, you know that they reimburse their employees for gender reassignment surgery and $20,000. I'm like, okay, so those are your values. How come you guys let this stuff slide on your platform? That's utterly disgusting. So Discord is, and you want to talk about radical. They are, the people that use radical, is for younger individuals, gaming. The people that run it are, for lack of a better word, they're weird. They're sick because they allow this stuff to proliferate on their platform. So I think, you know what, if they can't get a hold of it, if they're showing an unwillingness to cooperate with something that endangers the life of somebody else, it needs to be addressed. So there's hate speech, which to me isn't a thing. If you're saying, hey, you're fat, you're ugly, that's not a thing. You can say what's on your mind. But if you are directly threatening, you're planning something and it has resulted like what transpired, that needs to be addressed. Someone needs to be held accountable. Put your big boy pants on, Discord. Why are you missing this? How has all this egregious behavior, how has this been able to continue on your platform? And this same company says it's their moral obligation to spot violence and illicit activity. Well, if it's your moral obligation, you're doing a really bad job at it. So I'm disgusted with what I see from them.
So what's interesting to me is that we want people to be able to privacy online and be able to communicate freely online. And I think that you understand that to your core, but I'm also simultaneously unnerved that this radicalization is taking place, and our federal government, which surveils us in so many ways, seem to be completely unaware of what's taking place on these platforms. And it's a tough circle to square for just on a personal level for someone who loves freedom of speech. I want people to be free to express themselves, but if people are just going online and planning terrorist attacks and our government is just, hey, how was I supposed to know that was going on? It seems sort of unsatisfying. I'm trying to put this puzzle together, and it is challenging. I have to admit it.
It is challenging, and you think of them as little terrorists. Like, you're planning to endanger somebody else just because they differ from your opinion. Like, you're insane. And I think part of it is, as a society, like, we need to, like Discord, you're reimbursing employees for gender reassignment. Like, let's say they're mentally ill, and that's the culture that you've built at Discord. The people that are in these chats, they're mentally ill. Like, we used to make fun of people that were transgenders, and we called them transvestites, cross-dressers, and now it's been normalized But look at the discussions they're having. Like, they actually need help. They're mentally ill. And so if this proliferates on Discord, Reddit, and you go down to these dark corners of the internet where it's like, it's insane. But Blue Sky, the other social media company that was co-founded by Jack Dorsey, the same guy that suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story. I mean, there needs to be some accountability, because there's free speech and then there's endangering the lives of people. And you're making direct threats. You're using the name of somebody, saying, get him next.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to be held accountable. It's utterly disgusting. If you can't be held accountable, then there needs to be some ramifications, some quick and decisive action.
Okay, so I just want your take on TikTok, because we're on the verge of a TikTok deal. It does seem like Chinese company, the ByteDance, is going to retain some element of TikTok. So I'm guessing the algorithm's going to stay the same, which means it's going to be manipulating our young people to be hooked on the platform so they can't put it down. So it's hyper addictive and designed to trap young people into this online world. So I'm not thrilled about it, and I don't know where our movement should stand on it, because for me, I think I would like to see a TikTok ban, but if we're not going to ban it, does that mean we need to be on there creating alternative content, in your opinion?
I mean, it's kind of tough, because you're like, well, if I'm not creating content on TikTok, then somebody else is. And who's the somebody else? It's not conservative. It's radicals. I mean, it's a tough situation, because I want to ban TikTok. I mean, you talk about an invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
TikTok tracks users' keystrokes. So every message that you type, I mean, they are Instagram and Facebook in terms of invasiveness on steroids. So I absolutely agree. We should not have a large Chinese company operating in the U.S. I mean, China makes it hell for U.S. companies over there. We should reciprocate.
That's a good point.
And all the data that they retain, I mean, you really trust it to the CCP? Or when ByteDance says, no, we don't talk to Xi Jinping, it's like, oh, that's just not true. So I would love to see it banned, but then it's like, well, you put more power in the hands of Mark Zuckerberg, which is one of the same. It's kind of...
That's right. It's a great day for Instagram, right? If we do that.
It is. So and this is why I think we need to build alternatives. So like Freedom Chat, we have no algorithms. I quite honestly, message your friends and family, subscribe to Alex, subscribe to the other channels you want, then get off your phone, interact with your family. I mean, there was a study I just saw that said the silent generation, right, 1929 to 1945, where there was a World War, Great Depression, they are happier than Gen Z. And Gen Z just uses social media all the time. So it's kind of like, in a perfect world, people need to get off of these platforms and get outside and enjoy life a little bit, communicate with one another, find God. But should they be banned? There should be a sale. They never should have been able to get this large in the U.S., knowing their association with China. So it's kind of, how do we thread the needle here? And I mean, I think forcing a sale is the least objectionable, meaning it's the best, worst decision that could have been made.
Right. Okay. So I just want to be specific here for the audience about, so what Freedom Chat is, what it's about. This is where you should go for your messaging. And not to mention that there's an added bonus that I'm going to be posting content there. So if you're watching the show, obviously you'd be interested in my content. So that's there. But overall, it's just a great way to communicate in a secure way and not feeding the big tech leftist globalist beast. But you share in your words, Tanner.
I mean, you said it there. If you want your conversations to remain completely private, use Freedom Chat. If you want to align yourself with a business that supports your values, use Freedom Chat. If you're tired of funneling the big tech, liberal apparatus monster that it is, use Freedom Chat. I think the best way to fight back and win this war is through, it's a spiritual war, it's a financial war. Use companies that align with you. But first and foremost, your privacy matters. What you say matters. You don't want something to leak out in 5 years. It was completely taken out of context. Whether it's your credit card, whether that's your health information, social security number. I mean, all of these data breaches are increasing, and people just think it's like, well, how's it happening? Well, when you send something over iMessage, when you send it over WhatsApp, when you send it over Gmail, like, it gets out there. So take care of your privacy. use a company that aligns with your values, subscribe to Alex, and I think it's time for us to fight back, not physically, but financially, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally. Like, it's time.
It's time. It's time to put your money where your mouth is and your time, and it's to be more active and less passive about some of the bad guys who are harvesting your information and using it for purposes that we don't really know all the time, and that's not good enough these days. So I don't trust them, and you shouldn't either. I do trust Tanner, though, and Freedom Chat. So freedomchat.com, is that the best place, or just the App Store and download it? What do you recommend people do?
Yeah, go to freedomchat.com if you want to learn more a little bit about Freedom Chat. But if you have your phone right now, get out the App Store.
Yeah.
Search Freedom Chat, download on the Google Play Store, download it. I mean, it takes, 1 minute? You enter your phone number, encryption keys are generated. You can select a PIN, and then you're in. It's super simple, super seamless. And then head over to Alex's channel, subscribe, and you will see what it's like to communicate privately. And one more final touch is when somebody subscribes to your channel, Alex, it's their own private, perfectly curated newsfeed.
Yeah.
We can't see the channels they're subscribed to or the posts that they react to. It's exactly what they want to see. None of the extracurricular, none of the data mining, anything like that. So freedomchat.com or download it on the App Store or Google Play Store.
Yeah, very good. And Tanner, I'll call on you from time to time to come in and talk about the news, but pull out your phone, download Freedom Chat now, and just start getting your friends on board, family members, and start having secure chats instead of big tech controlled chats where they can spy on you whenever they want. So that's a big deal. All right, Tanner, good stuff. And thank you for the insight into this world that is a huge part of our lives, whether we like it or not. All right, that's today's show. Thanks to Misty. Thanks to all of you in the audience, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.